Hi, this is Amelia from Pithy Wordsmithery, and today I want to talk about why each chapter in your book needs a good beginning and an ending. I know this sounds really obvious, but a lot of times it's easier said than done when you're writing. So I think it really helps to think about chapters as standalone lessons. A logical flow usually starts by introducing the main idea as it relates to the book overall. So you really need to give context on why this topic matters in the overall story. And I think sometimes authors get a little tripped up here because a lot of times they've taught this stuff a ton of times. They've done keynotes or workshops, and maybe they haven't had to help people get their bearings as much because they're there in person. A book is a different medium, and I think you really do need to guide readers a little bit more intentionally so that they don't get lost from chapter to chapter. Honestly, this is one of the biggest things that I see that's missing when I do manuscript evaluation. A lot of authors have the tendency to dive right in without giving a real introduction to the chapter. So I think it's definitely something to watch out for. So let's do an example. Let's say your book is about team effectiveness and being more productive in the workplace, and you have a chapter on systems. You could start by telling a story about systems. You could do that in a ton of different ways, but before you get too deep into talking about systems, you really need to bring it back to the overall point, which is being more productive in the workplace and how systems help with that. Otherwise, people are going to get into it and they're like, okay, I don't really know where we're going and why. This is great, but it feels like a different book almost because it's a different topic. So you want to make sure that that doesn't happen. And at the same time, you want to think about how you're going to wrap up your chapter. Have you ever watched a movie and then all of a sudden it just ends? And you're like, what? That was it? Just like a movie, you don't want your chapters to just abruptly come to an end. So you really need to be intentional about closing out your thoughts. This is another super common problem I see from all kinds of authors. Endings, I think, always work well when they circle back to the beginning. So maybe you told a story in the opening. If you can come back to that in a clever way, I think that's a really nice way to wrap up the chapter. Or you could go back to big picture content on why the information is helpful in this chapter to readers. Or maybe there's a checklist or key takeaways. There's so many things that you can do, so many different strategies, but however you choose to wrap it up, it should have that end feel. It's kind of hard to describe, but you know it when you feel it. You just want to make sure that you aren't leaving your readers hanging. For more tips on writing books, check out the Pithy Wordsmithery website.